There's a couple things. Where's the questions? Where's the questions? Where's the questions there? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Right. Okay. So, so firstly, I'd just like to say hi and welcome Patrick to our meeting. Patrick to Patrick. So we're blessed
Yeah,
with our lucky names.
that was easy.
Um, and I guess Patrick Cox for me as a younger person back in the day. Um, someone asked me about who is Patrick Cox, and I said he was a rival to Gucci, which I think could be a good descriptor
Footwear terms. I
in
didn't do the whole
footwear
thing, but yeah,
terms.
footwear definitely.
A young Italian designer was asking me, who was a student, and we were just talking about who you were. And I remember, as a youngster, people would be saying, "Do you get Gucci loafers or Patrick Cox loafers?" So that's a good situation to be in, I
They
think.
copied many of my loafers, Gucci, many
Yes.
of them, and I certainly never copied theirs. It
Yes,
was
so
one way street
but
on
it
that
was a
side.
good, I guess that's a good place to be within that sort of grounding of, these two sort of powerhouses of that time. So, we're lucky to have you and, I guess you're a big part of what, people were doing in clubs and what was happening as a youngster. So it's nice to have you and give you a little bit of context. But the main reason we're here now is to discuss your new brand. And I'm just going to share with you the screen that I have so we can see here. Let me just make this full screen. Um, and well, let's share this. So, doors of perception. I guess what would be nice from your side is why did it start? What's the thought behind it? And a little bit of context.
Right. So, I had the Patrick Cox brand, as you were just talking about. I lost the Patrick Cox brand in 2007. For about 10 years, I struggled to figure out what I was doing in my life. There's a famous saying, life is in two acts, and it's all about surviving the intermission. I was stuck on the intermission for about a decade. I just couldn't figure out what I was going to do next. Nothing appealed compared to the glory days, the 90s, early 2000s of being Patrick Cox in London at that time. So I decided I'd had enough of England. I was burnt out. I was burnt out with my London life. So I moved to Ibiza in 2017 to start all over again. I certainly had no intentions of returning to designing in any way, shape, or form. Um, I struggled with my mental health once I got here. I live in the countryside on my own by choice in the middle of nowhere. That was very different from being in the center of London and having Deliveroo deliver to me every 3 minutes. I'm not a very good cook, so I was quite literally starving, sitting here in a field on my own. And things got quite dark, and I reached out for help. And being very much an alternative community here, someone suggested I try work with psychedelics. So I started microdosing mushrooms for about 6 months, but I have a very sensitive stomach and it just upset my stomach all the time. I had a gurgling tummy the whole time. So I had to let that go. And then someone said to me, another one of my close friends here said, there's a practitioner coming from Los Angeles and she's going to be serving toad. And toad, for those of them who don't know, which is probably 99.9% of the world, is this toad called the Sonoran desert toad, which lives in Mexico in the province of Sonora in the desert there. And in the secretions of its glands, it has the world's strongest psychedelic known to man. If you think of something like ayahuasca, which contains DMT, toad is 5 to 10 times stronger than that. The chemical compound, the molecule within toad venom is 5-MeO, and it's different from ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is like 4 or 5 hours of screaming and yelling and vomiting and all sorts of things, which is not really what I wanted to do to myself. Toad is 10 to 15 minutes long. the entire experience, the peak experience itself. And it's pure consciousness. It is a 100% ego death. And when you die, you return to source and you become one with everything. It's called non-duality. You realize that everything is one. And that experience I had May 29th, 2019, changed my life. I call my life pre-toad and post-toad. So after the 15-minute experience, everything was different. I sat there crying because I just couldn't believe how beautiful the world was. And I was so depressed before. I was regretting my move to Ibiza. I just hated everything. I hated myself. Um, and all of a sudden, I was just full of love and gratitude. And I was calling up my friends. I love life. I love Ibiza. And they're like, "What the hell?" I spoke to you 2 days ago, and you were suicidal, and now, and everyone said, "Oh, you're silly. You're high, or whatever." And that was 6 years ago now, and I still feel the same. Um, it changes you. It changes you. It's humbling, and you realize that the things that you valued before, I just don't value anymore. So I'm on a much more of a spiritual quest, and I wanted to share that. I had a teacher who served me. That's when you prepare the medicine and give it to someone, and he served me the medicine for many years, and then he very sadly died in 2021. And on his deathbed, he said, "Patrick, you will never truly be happy until you reconnect with your creativity." He said, "I've seen you. People talk about fashion or, God forbid, shoes, and you get up and walk out of the room." He said, it's that much of a trigger for you to remember the pain of losing your name and, the injustice of it all and all those sort of things. And he said, you need to reconnect. So I'd always had this kind of idea that I might do a business in Ibiza, supporting the local economy. Um, the things that are made for tourism here are, cheap tat made in, China and stuff like that. Logo T-shirts with Ibiza written on them or stuff like that. So I wanted to do something that was of a higher quality, something that had integrity. And I went to the hippie market one day. There's a hippie market here on the island. There's a couple of them. And I was on the stand of this lady that did embroidered cushions with lizards and the view of Esvedra and whatever, Ibiza scenes, typical stuff for the tourist trade. Um, Not very expensive, because she said, I can't do things that are expensive because I'm in the hippie market and people don't want that. So I showed her my idea of what I wanted, which was this full on, well, it was this jumper was the first one. And this jumper requires 40 hours of embroidery. It has 40 different eyes on different parts of it. 20 different colors of thread. It's a bloody work of art. And so I said, would you be able to do this? And she loved it. She felt very frustrated by what she was doing. She wanted to push the boundaries. And basically, she does T-shirts and things for, hen nights and club openings,
Right.
like just a logo written here, or, a christening, Maria, embroidered across the chest and a flower, So she was frustrated, and me offering her an opportunity to just go for it. She loved it. And that was the launch, was this actual garment, this sweatshirt here. I held off launching because I was nervous. She said I had to make 80 of them in order to amortize the CAD CAM computers for each one of this, because this is all machine embroidery. And so I ordered the 80, and then I sat on it for a while. And then my friends, a couple of them, saw me wear this, and they said, wow, that's amazing. So I already thought of the brand name, which is Doors of Perception, which is from the famous Aldous Huxley book from, is it 1948, 1952? And it's the first book written on psychedelics. Aldous Huxley was taking mescaline at the time, which comes from the peyote cactus. And he wrote the book about, called The Doors of Perception, opening the doors of perception in your mind. So I knew that I wanted that as the name. I didn't want Patrick Cox all over it. To me, Patrick Cox is dead. Patrick Cox is dead. And goodbye. This is a new beginning. It's a new life for me. So that was the idea. I wanted to promote wellness. I wanted to encourage the discussion about psychedelics and mental health. That might sound very grandiose from an embroidered T-shirt, but that's where the concept came from. People love it. They buy into it. They might just think it's a cute T-shirt or a cute sweatshirt, and that's fine. Or they might go on the website and read a little bit more and go a little bit deeper with what I'm trying to communicate. But it's all, without sounding too mad, it's all about peace and love, which does take you back to the 60s. But to me, the future is psychedelics. It's not the past. People kind of have this image of, people in the 60s tripping and, throwing themselves out of windows and things like that. And that is so overblown and was all to do with the war on drugs, because people didn't want to fight their wars anymore. So to me, and you just have to see what's going on with the psychedelic renaissance going on around you. Mushrooms are a motif that is just popping up absolutely everywhere. The eye motif was, to me, because I've awoken, my eyes are open. So it's all about awakening. It's all about change. And that's sort of the theory of the brand. It's made in Ibiza. It's embroidered on the island. I source sustainably produced garments. I don't generally design the garments from scratch. I source sustainably produced garments, or I use army surplus, or I use dead stock or vintage. And then we embroider it, and then it's on my website, and I sell to 2 stores on the island and maybe 2, 3 other stores in the world. I don't want to return to the old days of Patrick Cox. I don't want staff. I don't want premises. I'm literally a one-man company. If you want to talk to accounting, me. You want to talk to press, me. You want to talk to design, me. And that's really what I want to do. I realized that having hundreds of employees and selling millions of pounds of product didn't make me happy. And this is all about finding peace, finding happiness, encouraging my creativity, but maintaining a balance of a sane life. There you
Good.
go.
And I think what's quite nice about it is this combination of like the embroidery is phenomenal. And
Yeah,
for anyone
she's great.
looking at
She,
this,
I mean, I owe that all to Nieves because I have the idea, but I don't know about stitch counts and different techniques and everything. So it's a real collaboration, the two of us.
yeah,
She's great.
but I think sometimes there needs to be a vision, and it isn't, the crafts person is a part of that system of making it happen, but
Yeah,
it's having that sort of understanding of good quality, you being able to source certain things, understanding what is desirable as an object, something that you would want, and I think this taps into that sort of space. And I think, well, fortunately and unfortunately, it will grow. So fortunately, it will grow. Unfortunately, it might become big. So then your one band, I don't know what you're going to do about. But
there's
I can
controlled
see it.
growth. I've talked to people about it. If a store wants to place a big order, I'm like, why don't you place an order that's like 1/5 the size of that, sell out, place another order, sell out, place another order? Because I don't want my stuff to ever go on sale. We don't
Yeah,
go on sale on the site. We go on sale at the end of summer, there might be like 3 pairs of shorts and one size, one size, one size. So we'll get rid of that just because there's 3 left. But this
yeah,
jumper, which is 3 years old, is on the site. It's never been discounted. We don't discount it. We sell to the retailers that carry it. If you discount us, we won't sell to you again. That's not how this works. Um, so it's an evolution. I mean, I couldn't be more personal and more niche if I tried. It's
yeah,
rather expensive because the way I produce it, it's embroidered in Ibiza. I mean, if I worked in a sweatshop in Bangladesh, I could do the embroidery for a tenner. Instead, I'm paying over €100 for the embroidery on this. We also, the garment's already made and then we embroider it, which is backwards. Normally people embroider on fabric and then make the garments, but then I end up in a fashion situation. I end up in a garment factory, and I end up with minimums and all of these things, which I don't want. I've
yeah,
done that. I've been there. I've done that.
yeah.
The strange thing is, ironic, is this summer I designed a sandal, and it's the first footwear I've designed in 10 years, and I was terrified to do it, because there they are, the 4 eye sandals. The factory in Italy asked for 144 pairs minimum. because that's kind of standard in footwear. And that used to be a Saturday afternoon for me back in the day in the 90s. But for my little brand to buy 144 of anything is like unheard of. I buy them in dozens each time because we work on such small runs. And I pushed the go button. I was kind of freaked out, and I pushed the go button, and we've sold over 300 pairs of those sandals. They sold out a couple times, and I reordered. Um, it's almost like I was a shoe designer. It's
In a different way, which is nice.
Yeah, it's part of that psychedelic journey. Is psychedelics strip you right down to nothing, and sometimes you throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I had to throw everything out and start again, and then I had to find the joy in designing footwear again. I had to find the joy in designing, period. Then I had to find the joy of designing and starting a brand and having a website and still find it fun, not find it to be a burden. And then I had to just rediscover the joy of designing shoes, which, is something I love to do and did for 25 years until commerce got in the way and all sorts of things went wrong. Yeah, so it's been I hate the word journey, but it's been a journey.
Yeah, and I think like seeing these and seeing them develop from part one to where they're going, and you're introducing little elements. I can see like the stamping and things like that. It is sort of bringing in that and working with Italy, and all them little elements you're bringing to it is where it's sort of elevating the outcomes of the product. And I think seeing these, especially these, and I think they're a really desirable, cool item. And I think what's quite nice we're seeing with lots of people like yourself who've gone up, gone down, and kind of uh, people want to resurrect good people, and I can see that with your friendship groups and people like that who want to kind of it's like a group hug, and they're
Yeah,
saying, "Come on,
there's a lot of
come on,
love out there, which
yeah,
I'd forgotten. Oh, sorry,
that's all right."
I'm on silent. I don't know why. Why? Why can I not decline this? I'm trying to decline it. Sorry, I'm gonna have to take it. Hi, I'm on a Zoom. Can I call you back? Right. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't decline that. That was weird. Yeah, I'm on
It,
silent. I'm on silent. Oh, maybe because it's coming through on the computer because I'm talking on the computer. I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, it's that's good, a good interruption. But no, so I think like seeing you and hearing this sort of resurrection, and I think we see this with Galliano, and we've seen people. It's a shame someone like Alexander McQueen, if he had
That
lived
would that
that
would be a
moment.
literal resurrection. That would be a literal resurrection.
But
Yeah.
it was a shame someone like him who was so amazing, and the system destroyed him. And I
Yeah.
think, we see such great characters, designers, especially British designers, because we're quite small as a country. We haven't got that American way about us, and we get sucked into the system, and the system sometimes sweeps you up and launches you out. And I think it's quite nice that the actual community of the world says, no, you deserve to be creative, you deserve to make, you deserve to showcase your abilities. And I think in this way, it's nice, maybe more of a humbling experience where you're saying, I'm this, I'm that, you're speaking to me, which is nice. And the doors are sort of flapping open a little bit, and there's a more people. It's more of an open system, and I think it's a really nice approach to the whole system that you're making. Community driven fashions become more community based, I think, and so it's really nice to see sort of the direction it's heading. I think it will grow, so you're going to have your other issues to deal with, but it will.
It can grow by about 4 times before I need to hire someone.
Yeah,
I mean, as you know, I'm moving to Sicily in the spring. So once I'm set up in Italy, probably by the autumn, I'll probably get one assistant.
yes, yeah. So I guess keeping it's small and community, and also you have more of a control over the dynamics of it, that it doesn't go into this massive system. I think, unfortunately, when, like if a brand goes crazy, it goes crazy and you have to kind of deal with the demand. So I guess that's a bridge you're going to have to cross.
Yeah, but
Let's
I
see.
know what I want in life. I'm 62 years old. I don't care anymore. I don't care about ego. I don't care what anyone thinks about me at all. I don't care what anyone thinks about my product. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, okay, buy something else. I don't care. It
Yeah,
really is, it's a personal joy and pleasure, which has resonated with some people, especially in the psychedelic community, the festival community, clubbing community. I mean, I don't even want to limit it because I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the people who bought some of my things. And I'm like, what did you get out of that? Like, wow, okay. Um, but there is no 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is to be happy and sane.
yeah,
That's the 5-year plan. There is no giant growth thing. I'm going to eschew growth. Um, it's not what I want. It doesn't. I mean, like I said, it doesn't make me happy. My goals, when I had my old days and I was, the biggest shoe designer, probably independent shoe designer in the world, was like global domination and whatever, living an ego.
yeah,
And that just doesn't appeal
yeah.
to me in any way, shape,
Which
form anymore.
which I think is and we live in a different world where people admire authenticity and over ego, and I
Yeah.
think that's a really nice space.
And also with the advances, with Shopify, with Instagram, with all of that, I can have a one-man company.
Yes,
I don't need a store. I don't need an agent. I don't need a I don't need all those sort of things. I can literally, I have a girl that helps me design my website that, I shoot her new products. And I have a wedding photographer, a local guy who does like weddings and bar mitzvahs and christenings and funerals. He shoots all the stuff because all I go is I want it clean and on a white background. I said, that's all I want. So, he charges me like 20 euros,
yeah,
sort of thing. I'm not going to some chic photographer in Paris. Fuck that. I don't care anymore.
yeah,
I don't need that to, seduce everybody. It's a clean, very visual. I mean, that's what I've always had in Patrick Cox and going through doors. If you think of the common thread, there's a clean pop sensibility through it all. And my favorite reaction in the old days of Patrick Cox when someone walked into the showroom was they smiled.
yeah,
And that is kind of what I'm trying to continue with Doors of Perception is spreading my idea of beauty and joy. And
yeah,
if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, that's okay.
yeah. And I think
If you think it's expensive, that's okay. It is expensive because it's made
it's
by hand by
quality,
people.
and
Yeah,
it's
it is.
it's everlasting. I think
Yeah.
having
And it's
a
not trend, because some of my friends wear something and they're like, oh my God, this a friend bought this jumper, flew Christmas holiday from London to Thailand. By the time he got to Thailand, he called me, how many colors does this come in? I said 4. He goes, I want the other 3. And I said, why? And he goes, I'm like a straight guy who's like 55 who works in banking. I have never had so many compliments in my life. He goes, people were coming across the terminal to go, where's that from? You look amazing. And he said, I want all 4 colors. I was like, really? And then he's just like you said, a straight banker who just was wearing it on
this
holiday.
is what I think. And I think it has that attractability, and the eye is very symbolic. So
Yeah,
the eye as an object, the evil eye, we think of the Mediterranean
yeah.
on
But
boats.
all cultures have the eye. All
Eye
cultures.
is
Because
just
oh,
so,
it's Mediterranean. Oh, it's Greek. Oh, it's Lebanese. Oh, it's. I was like, it's all cultures. From going back, the history of art. Was probably the first thing was the female form and then an eye.
yeah.
It just is
It's
that simple.
it's it's it kind of taps into all these little arenas,
Yeah,
which I think is which is really nice. And
I like the symbolism of it. Symbolism is a big word for me.
well, I guess this is the part that when we talk about designers and creatives is having that context. You talk about someone in the market and they go, I've been making names Maria and Bob and Tony and all that, and then you turn up, but this is the difference we talk about creatives is you have that context. You're looking at the Renaissance art, you're looking at symbolic things that have connectors. And I think like mushrooms, like a few years ago, I was speaking to these people who were talking about the rise of, you know, um, vitamin D in mushrooms, the amount of information in mushrooms, becoming mushroom levers. There's
Yeah.
so much around mushrooms.
Yeah,
And
mushrooms are a wonder. They're not just for the psychedelic aspect. I mean, there's thousands of mushrooms that aren't psychedelic, and they all have interesting properties. I mean, life on Earth is because of mushrooms. You know,
yes,
mushrooms are not plant or animal. They're their own category, and they're more closer to humans than they are to plants. It's quite fascinating. If any one of the students wants to watch the documentary Fantastic Fungi, it's quite amazing. It'll give you an education. And all my mushroom designs, every one of those mushrooms is a psychedelic mushroom. I had the head of the New York Mycology Society show up to a pop up I did in New York. I have no idea why he showed up. And he looked at my garments. He said, "You know, every single one of these is psychedelic." I said, "Yeah, I know. I did my research." The idea behind the mushroom panel, which I call Botanica Fantastica, that big panel which goes on the bag and on the back of jackets and things like that. First of all, when I was going to do the mushrooms, everything I looked at in in the world and fashion, everything was all very pop and psychedelic and looked a bit cartoony. And I just thought, no, 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 this is quality. I want it to be different. So I started to look at botanical reference books from the 18th century and the 19th century. So that's why this one's called Botanica Fantastica, because I wanted it to have a botanical feel. There's still the pop sensibility, the one eye placed on the one mushroom, but I wanted it to have more gravitas than just silly happy mushrooms on your outfit.
and what is quite interesting, if anyone's looking from you from the outside, is you're using this craft, and then the other side, which is your online Instagram, you're integrating a bit of AI magic to it, which is tapping into the psychedelic. Because everyone in our field is all got this sort of pushback from AI, where you're sort of, it's like a bringing it in a different way. And I was looking at that recent animation with the eye on the, and it's so fascinating. And I think you've sort of grabbed hold of it in a different way, and it sort of works.
Well, to me, I mean, I don't produce any of those. I'm on Instagram a lot, and those are all AI creators and things that are in the psychedelic community or just the AI community. To me, that's the messaging. I didn't want to just put product up. And when I started this, there was no model. So if you look at a lot of the pictures, especially in the early days, if you go back on my Instagram feed, it's me. It's me wearing everything. I mean, not wearing the skirts, but it's me wearing the hats. It's me wearing this. It's me that, because I just had my camera phone and I'm alone in Ibiza and take a picture and put something on, take a picture. So in looking for content, I was personally inspired. And I think if any of the people that want to do this project go through my Instagram feed and look at all those AI clips and collage clips and various bits in between the actual product. So I was very inspired by what they did. So I just started. I mean, I credit them fully. I said, I don't know any of these people. I've reached out to maybe one or two to maybe try to do something with them, but the one you're talking about is a guy Wayne Visuals, which is
Yes.
one of my favorites. I mean, wow. um, and it's just, yeah, I mean, there is a huge link between AI and psychedelics. There's a huge link between um, Silicon Valley and psychedelics. I mean, Steve Jobs says he thought of most of his best ideas on LSD, and a lot of the imagery you see in those clips that I post are kind of what you see on psychedelic. I mean, they're really quite out there and quite trippy, and a lot of them have a meaning. A lot of them have a voiceover talking about mental health and all sorts of things like that. So again, that's the messaging of the brand. I'm not selling anything on those pictures. There's certainly none of my product in those pictures. It's just those clips. It's just to reinforce what I feel very strongly about.
Yeah, and I for me, because I find them fascinating, and from raves and people doing ecstasy or whatever they're doing, is people see these visions. And I think people kind of, if you're from the rave community or you're a hippie, my dad was a hippie,
My
and
dad was happy.
kind of going through that sort of uh, movement and understanding people that took psychedelics. This is a real sort of brought in. And my dad is from more computer side of it, so he's got
Right.
the engineering, and you kind of see that mix and match of hippie psychedelic engineers, which taps into Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
There's a real, you know, you could imagine Elon Musk, all these
Yeah.
characters, even though they're
I'd
not.
rather not imagine Elon Musk. I'd rather imagine Elon Musk dead, personally. But
Yeah, but he, you know, his sort of, if you look into his family and
yeah,
how they approach the world, and they're thinking of futurism and AI and machine learning. It's really, I thought it was really nice that even though you have such a craft embroidered brand, you're still trying to reinforce the idea of what it feels like. You're trying to immerse people, and I think that's a really nice way of getting people to try and understand the concept.
and in a positive way,
Yes.
and in a human way, because the human can't be lost in that equation, and in a spiritual way, the soul can't be lost in that equation. I think, sadly, what's going on in the world right now is just ego-driven white old men trying
Yeah.
their best to destroy the world
Yeah.
for their very soul.
I think through, you know, they talk about what's the role of fashion, and it is to have independent thinking. And I think it,
And a mirror, and a mirror.
yeah, and I think it's really nice, sort of what you're the way that the brand's playing. So for me, I guess giving people context of your brand is, you know, you had all these little elements that when they go through the website, they can see these main things, and you've got some new ones coming up. I know you were talking to me.
Yeah, yeah.
But if they look at the website, understand it, there's these nice symbolic objects, which is quite, and I quite like the mirror ball. You've brought
Yes.
a bit of disco has been brought back in, which
Well,
is,
because people said, "What does a disco ball have to do with spirituality?" And I said, "Well, as a teenager growing up in homophobic Western Canada, disco was my salvation. DJ was a god, and the dance floor was church. It was the only place where I felt truly safe and free, was on a dance floor in a nightclub, when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, sort of in the 70s, because otherwise outside was not safe.
yeah,
For a young gay boy, it was not safe at all. So that's where, and I think you look at any religion, and there is an element of dance, ecstatic dance, Sufi spinning. There's always an element of movement, and that's very key to the brand. It is also, it's quite wild when you see who follows me. There's a lot of light workers. There's a lot of ecstatic dance, nutritionists, yoga, very much people on the spiritual path, more than probably my old followers. Some people have followed me, but you really have to look to see that it's designed by Patrick Cox. It's not something that is promoted all over. It's not
yeah,
a Patrick Cox design. A Patrick Cox is, it's Doors of Perception and designed by Patrick Cox somewhere else. And I only that was because I gave in to pressure come from my friends. Otherwise, there was not going to be Patrick Cox anywhere on the product at all. It's Yes, it's a continuation of my life, but it's a complete reevaluation and rebirth, renaissance, whatever you want to call it.
yeah. And I think so. From, I guess, from our side is we have illustrators, creatives, designers, textile designers, um, and from them we've given them a series of briefs or things to just trigger them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess from you, is there anything you would imagine you'd like to see, or do you want from a creative to creatives just go out there and get on with it, or like is there anything in your imagination you go, I'd love to see some more of this, or
Well, there are two main groups so far, which are eyes and then mushrooms. There will be a group coming for the spring, which is to do with cacti, so psychedelic cactus, which is San Pedro, and then the other psychedelic cactus is mescaline, as I mentioned earlier, which comes from the peyote plant. So there'll be a cactus group. I haven't done an ayahuasca group yet, so if someone wanted to tackle an ayahuasca group, what is the imagery involved with ayahuasca? I think the snake is probably the thing that comes up the most. The actual plant itself is not very interesting, and most people wouldn't notice it. Like a mushroom is iconic,
yeah,
especially the Amanita muscaria, the red one with the white dots. Everybody knows that. A cactus is iconic, whether it's got a psychedelic property to it. You just need to see the outline of a cactus. You're like, cactus. So I'm still trying to think of what I'm going to do for an ayahuasca group. Um, Try to keep it pop and modern. Don't go too 1960s retro because, like I said, psychedelics are the future to me. What else? Color is very important. Things tend to have a pop sensibility. I toned it down a little bit with the mushroom group, as I said, because I was looking at botanical references. But if you look at all the first stuff, it's very pop colored. There's the Hamza, which so far there's only one item on the website. It's a puffer jacket with the hams on the back.
Yep.
This I just happen to have one here. So
Nice.
there's going to be a lot more with the Hamza. So if people wanted to think of things with the Hamza. Um, Continuing, I mean, obviously, eyes and mushrooms are endless. If
Yeah.
someone wants to just think of something completely new, I mean, one thing I really wanted to do once it's a brand and people understand it a bit more rather than just buying one item is a door, an opening door, because it's the doors of perception. So my idea, when I started it, it was like a logo on a polo shirt right there of a door. So
Right.
if someone wanted to work on the imagery of a door opening, um, a door,
Yeah.
somehow like that. So because that is literally the doors of perception. Um, yeah, I think those are the main things I'm looking at. I'm just be free. Don't worry about it. It's amazing what we can do. If someone does want to actually design the garment or the shoe or the bag or the wallet, that's good too. But for me, I'm more thinking of fantasy and the embroidery.
Yeah.
Like I said, I sourced garments already made, but the sandal I made from scratch. The wallet on the site is made from scratch, and there will be 2, 3 bags coming out made from scratch. And then the cashmere is made from scratch. And I think that will probably slowly become the future of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Is that where I need to, if it's not a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or a hoodie, where I need to, I will have the garment made too.
And I guess a quick thought is with most brands is, do you have a muse?
Me. It's so freaking personal. I was like, I think that's cool. We're doing it. I mean, I say we in sentences. I don't know why. I just say I, but I just feel egocentric saying I all the time. So I say we, but there is no we. And there's one person, as I said. So, yeah, me. The stuff is very unisex. I wouldn't really call it sexy in any way. It is very unisex. So, yes, we have the odd skirt here and there, and of course, I didn't try those ones on and didn't fit those on me. But everything else is kind of a shared wardrobe. It's as I'm promoting this idea of oneness. It's a oneness in the sizing. It's a oneness in the gender. So it's just open.
Good.
So there is no specific muse. No.
It feels very contemporary from that philosophy, which is really nice. And I think that's going to be the unique outcomes, I think, for this.
I
So,
mean, with the cashmere, I only offered 2 sizes. And then with the new cashmere, which I'm doing, which will be on the website in about a month, we're doing one size. It's like one size, one color, and it's, gender free, size free, as we call it.
and
Um,
just
there's a famous quote by Humphrey Osmond, who is the person who invented the word psychedelic. And it is to soar angelic, to fathom hell or soar angelic, just take a pinch of psychedelic. And that is going to be going on some of my new designs coming up in the autumn.
good, good, good. And it also, I was just thinking from a different point of view is, you've done embroidery. What have you thought about printmaking or other ways of doing stuff like cyanotyping or trying
I
something?
mean, it just to me means more manufacturers
Right,
and, and so more sourcing. I mean, yes, obviously anyone would think, oh, why don't you do something printed? It would be cheaper. And I was like, yep, but that's another source, and something cheaper means higher minimums. Um,
right.
so so far I'd rather keep it to embroidery because
Yeah.
it gives it a unifying feel. Because sometimes people think, "Oh, your stuff's expensive," and then they see it in the store, they're going, "Oh my god, that's all embroidered." I said, "Yeah." They said, "Oh, I thought it was printed." And I couldn't understand why it was 400 euros for a hoodie, and I was like, "No, it is all embroidered." So there's that side which
Yeah, and
I
I
want
think
people
that's
to
good.
value this. I don't want anything anywhere near fast fashion, even if it is a t-shirt or a hoodie. I want people 5 years from now, 10 years from now to dig it out and go, oh my God, I love that. I've sold to a lot of people my age, and then they come back and they go, I haven't seen it since the day I got home. My teenage daughter just nicked it and it's gone. It's just gone. I mean, I had someone walk around Glastonbury. They bought 3 outfits from me and they wore one each day. And they were like, okay, you destroyed my Glastonbury. And I said, what? I said, I was tripping balls and all I did was talk about Doors of Perception and Patrick Cox to random people coming up to me going, that's amazing. I mean, you got to imagine Glastonbury is my spiritual home. I've never been. I don't really want to go to festivals, but if you want to get a large amount of people on psychedelics, I think that's probably the number one world event. So people notice it, and it crosses generations.
Good. And I guess just to wrap it up, because we've got to think about time, is with the branding of the logo, do you mind them playing with that as well?
If there's something new and interesting, to figure out, because you see, there's the keyhole within the D of doors.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was
that
thinking.
that was a friend of a friend who I just said, hey, I want it to look a little bit trippy, but I don't want it to be 270s, 260s. And I said, either a door or a handle or a keyhole. So, if people want to go out of the box and just think, okay, doors, 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 what's the elements of the door? There's the hinges, there's the handle, there's the keyhole there. So if people want to go down that rabbit hole, I'm all for encouraging people to go down rabbit holes. If people want to read things, there's a lot of Eastern mysticism. One of the states of ecstasy that you achieve of oneness is called samadhi, Samadhi, I believe. So I know I haven't done any of them yet, but I know eventually I'll do shirts with mudras, the different hand positions. I will go into a little bit of Eastern mysticism on some of them. Um, yeah, there's lots of ways
There's
you can
lot
go.
there's lots of variables. It can,
Lots of ways you can go in there.
yeah, and I can feel it's kind of, you can see it splintering out to lots of
Yeah.
yoga groups
Stars,
and
planets, because, I mean, aliens,
yeah,
all of that sort of stuff is stuff that I'm very interested in. So
yeah.
that all is all to do with doors of perception for me.
Perfect. So we've got quite a big time frame on this, so we won't be
Mhm.
probably meeting till after Christmas time.
Okay.
Um, if I get anything earlier, I might shuffle things over to you,
Sure,
but
sure.
I'm going to try and keep it towards the end. But we'll be in conversation anyway. And secondly, just to say thanks for this.
Thank you.
I know you. I've known you as a youngster. So it was good to see, I'm lucky to catch you. So, and it took me a while to manage to get you back into the fold. We're quite lucky. We had London Fashion Week, and illustration and drawing and art is starting to get back into the mix of fashion now, because is all over the place at the moment. So it's
I think
nice
there's a
to
giant return to craft. I think
at last.
the big brands are dead in the water. The
Yes.
Gen Z is just like, why would I pay that much for that? Why?
Yeah.
when 10,000 other people have the exact same thing. So I think things that are niche, that celebrate craft, that are made in small runs, that are, sensitive and sustainable, I think that's what people want.
Yeah. Good. Patrick, thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Have a
Patrick.
great day.
Take care.
Cheers, sir. Bye
Bye.
bye.